right. Well, let me record an intro because I really want to give this episode such a dumb name.
Okay.
Welcome to Are You Falcon, My Winter Soldier? A superhero television and film recap special one-off podcast. I'm your host, Little.
I'm your other host, Little.
And we wanted to get together today to talk about Marvel's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, one of the most boring TV show title names.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
Possible. Every time I have to write out The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm like, really? So I can't remember if there's 6 or 7 episodes total.
I think there's 6.
6. Okay. Wow. I can't believe that we're 2/3 of the way through whatever this story is, but okay.
Yes, I agree. I wonder how much... Okay, I thought that the last episode, which I think is called The Whole World is Watching, I think that is really when it picked up. I'm still sort of waiting for that pickup, but there was a lot that happened. There's been a lot that's happened. It's just seemed very... Like, it's so much fun. A Marvel television series is so much fun. It's just, I don't know, we're just so used to getting huge stories that this smaller story seems very strange.
I think we're also used to stories that tell their story very economically, despite the fact that some of them are like nearly 3 hours long. And there's just a lot of like extraneous shit in this show that doesn't seem to be like amounting to anything. And people are, when you read what people write about this show, they're really having a hard time tracking what it's about. When it started, it appeared to sort of be about Marvel's take on race relations. There's a scene in the second episode when there's like a sort of tense and needless police moment where the police stop Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the street, and there's some harassment, and then they realize that they're talking to an Avenger, and they change their tone, and then they change their tone again because there's a warrant out for Bucky's arrest, and that scene might be like a sort of microcosm for the way that it sort of fumbles around the race relations stuff.
Okay, so I actually think that they've done a pretty good job interjecting a lot of personal struggle into the story purposefully because we want Sam to relate to Morgenthau. What's her first name?
Carly Morgenthau.
Carly. We want him to relate to her. We want him to understand the struggle. And he does because of these personal aspects of the stories.
Yeah, I will say that the personal stuff that happened in the story, it's fun. I like the story with his sister in the boat and everything. It doesn't totally make sense. And there's a way in which that could have been okay. Like, how the first episode establishes this idea that, like, he doesn't have any money.
Right.
Despite the fact that he seems actively employed by the U.S. military and was previously in the employ of billionaire Tony Stark in some fashion, like previous movies did indicate in some way that the Avengers was an enterprise under the auspices of Tony Stark. They had a building, they had like ostensibly employees. So the fact that they're sort of rewriting it now to say, oh no, there was never really any money or anything, it was all goodwill, it only works in that scene. It doesn't work anywhere else.
In general, I think that that's okay because there is a certain amount of like, so you're telling me that Captain America, through all of his escapades while being a fugitive from the law, like they're riding around in a Quinjet and stuff, and then immediately it's like, Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we never had any money or anything.
And it could actually be, right? It could actually be that after the events of Civil War, Captain America and Sam and all those people have been on the run ever since. So it could be that like their assets were seized and their checking accounts were frozen and Steve's nice Brooklyn apartment was taken away by the bank or something. But they don't actually say that.
No,
And
they don't. And
maybe you don't say that in a meeting with a bank manager. Maybe you don't say, "Well, all my assets were seized when I was, an enemy of the state, and I've since been pardoned." But you say that in the next scene, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, the thing with it is they're like, okay, so you're the Falcon. And yeah, I agree with you that he is actively employed by the government because especially when it comes down to him and New Cap like fighting, it's like there's a reason that these guys aren't just arresting Sam and the Winter Soldier on the street when they run into them, and being like, you have to help us or you're going back to prison kind of deal. It's like they're free men, but they are working for the government in some fashion.
Yeah, there's a way in which you could do this, right? Where you explain it, but a lot of the things that they do, they choose not to explain, and yet they make a big deal out of it. So they make a big deal out of Sam not having any money, but they don't explain it. They make a big deal out of everyone's military status and non-status, but they don't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the whole situation where the therapist like did some missions with new Captain America, and they know each other from like it sounds like they were like in Vietnam together or something, which just doesn't make any sense age-wise. But then the fact that like the therapist can require Sam and Bucky to go sit in a room and do group therapy together. According to what? Like the conditions.
That seems very silly.
They mentioned the conditions of Bucky's pardon, but it's like, how specific were these conditions?
Yeah. There's a lot of ambiguity there, and there's also the therapist is seemingly there for exposition and exposition only.
And for like goofy little scenes for future memes. Which it always annoys me when I like later seasons of Parks and Recreation would do that, where they would write these plots that were literally just generated so that you could have like a Ron Swanson gif that got created later, and it was just so transparent and tacky to me. And there's certain little like, I'm cool with Marvel shooting stuff like that for their trailers. But then and they do this. They shoot stuff for a trailer that never ends up in the
that's true.
property. But just do that. Don't try to like graft in a therapy scene, and your way of grafting it is the therapist says like, no, you both have to come in now. Why?
Now that I'm actually like considering it, I very much enjoy the therapist aspects of Bucky Barnes.
I think that
when you tie it into, you guys are going to come to the room with me now, it's like, nah, I don't know.
The most successful parts of the story so far have been the Sebastian Stan stuff, because I think he's just doing great work. That scene at the beginning of the last episode when he's being tested in Wakanda to see if is incredible. I was like, Sebastian
Stan is such a good actor, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just so moving because you really and the previous episodes built up well to that flashback. Mm-hmm. Like that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna hand this to them. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Other stuff,
the Wakanda stuff in general has been sweet. Like when they show up and they're like, nah, he's coming with us now. That was cool stuff. And the Captain America, like, trying to fight them. Great.
I think my favorite moment in the series so far was Sebastian Stan saying, looking strong, while New Cap is trying to fight off the women from Wakanda. That was great.
I think they did an awesome job with John Walker's character. And how, first of all, I love that they left you, like, at the, I guess it's the end of the first episode, where they're like, here's the new Cap, and you're like, I hate this guy. And then you meet him in the beginning of the next episode, and you're like, oh my God, do I love this guy?
Also,
and then,
maybe the best opening of a Marvel property so far, with the marching band version of a song from the first Captain America playing over that Marvel logo.
Yeah, that is so good.
Yeah, people talk all the time about how hyped they get when that Marvel logo plays before something, and I do too, but messing with it in that way was exciting.
Anytime they change it, is huge.
Which is
anytime
really
anytime it's got little changes in it, I just love that.
I remember there was a tweet one time where someone was like they're like, when the WB logo starts to glitch out at the beginning of a movie, oh fuck, oh shit.
yeah. It's how they've done New Captain America is awesome.
I love the character. I think it's
me
great.
Too.
Me
too. I think he might die.
I am worried about that. I would really love for John Walker to continue to be a difficult presence. I think that hopefully they know, right? Like in WandaVision, I think they knew from the outset what they had with Catherine Hahn. And they knew they had to create a character who, like a Magneto, they've never really had somebody like this in the MCU, like a villain who comes back as not a villain in the way that Zemo is doing right now in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't know that they planned that with Zemo, but I feel like that is absolutely in the cards already for Agnes. If not the next movie that in which Scarlet Witch appears, the one after that, it's going to be a Hannibal Lecter thing where Scarlet Witch faces a big problem and she's like, I got to call in reinforcements, and then like cut to her sitting in a living room talking to Catherine Hahn. Like that's going to happen.
I really love all the new characters that they've introduced in both of these shows. And I think that I'm under the impression that Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to come out before WandaVision initially.
Which would have been a real mistake.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say was like, it's really important that WandaVision came first, because you throw out the weird, the crazy stuff that the fans all want, and then you ground us back in a reality of like, see, another issue with Winter Soldier 2 is that it's a weekly show. Uh-huh. If they had released the first 3 in one sitting, people would be like, this show's incredible. But it's because we've been kind of drawn out.
Yeah, in the first episode, they don't even cross paths.
Yeah.
And then, this is the weirdest thing, by the way. Episode 1 feels like it's setting up a totally different show. They don't cross paths, and it feels significant that they don't.
It felt like Sam Wilson thought that Bucky Barnes was going to be behind the...
Oh, yeah. That's like one of like a million like bits and pieces of this show that almost feel like moments that are referencing scenes that were cut or reshot.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's a moment where Sam seems to think that the Flag Smasher is Bucky. That's gone. Almost everything from that first episode hasn't come back. And in the second episode, from the very first scene, the tone is completely different. And when you first see Sam, he runs into Bucky immediately, and it's like nothing. They don't even act like it's like, haven't seen you in a while or anything. They just start talking to each other. And you're like, why did we separate these characters for the entire first episode to have their first meeting be like, hey, what's up? It just felt so weird. And I was like, what's going on? Like, and I think maybe one of the reasons that I have gravitated toward John Walker is that it feels like the most consistent part of the show, even though his facial hair is wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
Is the story there just that like he's just a guy who really needs to shave every single day, and sometimes he doesn't get near a razor? Like, is this honestly a plot hole they're gonna explain, like the appearing and disappearing stubble?
I really love the lead up to him taking the serum. I really love that, like, he's just getting his ass kicked. He's like, I've got to be Captain America, and I'm just not strong enough. And after the Wakandan guard show up and just absolutely, beat the crap out of them. And he's like, they weren't even super soldiers.
Yeah.
Like, you're honestly like, wow, man, this guy is hurting. Like, and you feel for him. You're like, yeah, dude, this sucks.
It felt like reminiscent of this idea of like performance enhancing drugs in sports, which is something that they've never really related the idea of super soldier serum to before, but that feels, it feels like the fact that we meet new Captain America after that first shot in the first episode, that we meet him in a locker room feels significant. It felt like thematically appropriate. I feel like the super soldier serum is another place where there's elements of what appear to be like missing plot pieces. And the one that bothers me the most is whatever they're trying to do with Zemo. Because I think that the overall story of Zemo is pretty interesting. This is a guy who is morally opposed to superheroes and really means it. So in the moment when Carly spills a bunch of vials of super soldier serum on the floor in front of Zemo, he looks at them and he hesitates for a long time. And then he starts smashing them. And it feels like there was maybe earlier omitted material that suggested in some way that that was trying to make you doubt that Zemo was a man of his convictions. Like the mask that he puts on for 10 seconds in one episode and it's never explained again. I think maybe there was more material with that mask, and maybe we were supposed to think in some previous version of the show that Zemo really wanted to be a superhero. And that there were other scenes that made us think that his motivations were not what they say they are. And then the purpose of that scene where he smashes the vials is to show you the actual truth of his purpose, that he really means what he says. Yeah, so he's tested in that moment and he passes.
I wonder how much of that is maybe some. Maybe it's more about down the road what we're gonna get to there, but I agree that there's. I mean, I agree with you about the mask. I was thinking about, isn't there like a scene in the first Suicide Squad where like Will Smith kind of like implies like he puts the mask on when he's gonna, like bad stuff happens when the mask goes on? Where was that scene? Where's that scene when they were talking about the mask and being like, or really the long-term goal that they should have gone with, because they're usually on top of this type of thing, is why didn't in Civil War, when we saw pictures of Zemo when he was a soldier, why didn't he have the mask on then?
Yeah, I think
that would have been a good way to tie it in, as like he wears the mask when he's doing the wet work.
Mm-hmm. That mask scene I think it's the third episode, is just it's just pure chaos, because like there's an insert shot of him grabbing the mask. So it's meant to seem significant. Then there's a moment when he puts it on where it almost seems like we're supposed to believe that Sam and Bucky don't know who he is, because he comes to their aid. But
it's strange.
But then seconds later he's with them, mask off, talking to them, and they don't go, "Hey, who is that purple guy who saved us?" You know what I mean?
I thought what we were gearing up for in that scene was him putting on the mask and disappearing and just getting out of there.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was like, I'm going to fight my way out of this place and I'm going to abandon these two.
You keep feeling like, I get what this, it's like, I can't fight the feeling when I watch the show that I'm like, I feel like I was supposed to feel something, but half of what I was supposed to be shown in order to feel that is gone. And this other half was just left here for some reason. And I don't understand why it wasn't completely removed. It would be so easy.
I wonder how much of this potentially aligns with Black Widow.
Maybe.
Because the release dates got all messed up. Black Widow was supposed to come out before all of this.
But, I think that because of the fact that WandaVision got moved up, I think that WandaVision was significantly recut to account for that. That there might have been references to other things that happened or timeline references in terms of when each thing was taking place. What I mean, in terms of the grand timeline of the MCU, even though they shuffle it up pretty often, WandaVision took place well before Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
But they haven't made any reference to it, you know?
Right.
And maybe they don't know. But it's just kind of like, I'm okay with them not all being integrated. There's supposed to be some character that appears in the 5th episode, and maybe that's gonna clarify it a little bit. But I don't know. I kind of hope it doesn't have. I kind of hope that the Black Widow movie is not like the key to understanding this show. That would kind of be a drag.
No, I agree. My main issue right now, as far as any crossover or anything like that, seems to be that it is very hard for me to believe that if this was going on with New Cap, who is super green and has no experience being Captain America, how are you not using some of the people that are involved with the government, like War Machine? Or something like that.
Don Cheadle did show up at the beginning. That was nice to see him.
Yeah, I know, but like, why have him there and then not have him show up? Like, in some way, forcing a, like, fractured Avengers of like, you see, like, New Cap and Bucky and Falcon on one side and, and War Machine's trying to help New Cap, that kind of thing.
It would be particularly interesting to bring Cheadle back in if Falcon and Winter Soldier is in fact some kind of commentary on race and superheroes, because you have these varying perspectives from these different black characters. You have the characters from Wakanda, you have Sam, you have War Machine. But I guess I think about Watchmen being like this incredible example of using superheroes as a lens to examine race. And I was nervous for Marvel. I was like, I don't know if they're going there. I don't know if they're going to get there,
I'm not worried about that, because I feel like Marvel is very tasteful in all of the things that they do. But
I don't think it has that much to do about race in the end, actually. I think it has much more to do with marginalized people in general, which is
right.
And there's that the race thing with Sam is just a parallel to the people that Carly Morgenthau was trying to help.
I loved the Black Falcon conversation with the kid.
Yeah,
I thought that was really funny. Why is it? Because I'm black? I thought that was great.
And I thought Sam's fury over the whole Eli Bradley thing is totally understandable. And I wish, and maybe there is going to be, I wish that there was more about that, because that is a powerful thing, right? There was a black Isaiah,
right?
Sorry, yeah, Eli's his son. Eli Bradley is the one who is potentially going to be in the Young Avengers.
Sure.
But Isaiah Bradley, yeah. And I just feel like that suggestion, right, that they drop in the show and then have only like hinted at a little bit, is there was a black Captain America and nobody knew and they put him in jail. Like, that's powerful and dark.
See, I honestly think that I like the aspect that it's not going to be it's not the main bit here. It's just an aspect of his life, and it's something that frustrates him. And it makes, and like I said before, it makes him align with Carly a little more about, let's talk about how cool it is to kind of like, now that we're past it enough, address the snap and how it affects the world.
Yeah.
I mean, just as I loved the Monica Rambeau. Is it Monica or Maria Rambeau? I can't remember which one.
Monica's the one who's
daughter
younger.
is.
Yeah, the daughter's Monica.
Yeah, so I loved the hospital scene.
Yeah.
Where she returns.
Yeah.
And I really like this new premise of like, the world had moved on, and then all of these people returned, and they are treated as like almost refugees.
Well, and I love too, first of all, I love that they're doing it all in these kind of like offhanded conversations and like the Global Patriation Council commercials and things like that. I love that.
Yes, me too.
But I also love the way that it kind of they found a way to make it resonate with the pandemic, right? Because it's like the world was interrupted, and a lot of people who want to help people saw an opportunity to make the world a better place. And suddenly, everything went right back to normal. And it's like, that's what everyone is afraid of right now with the pandemic, is that, like, we had this opportunity to change. And what is happening now as the world is opening back up? Mass shootings, police shootings, it's all the same stuff. The world just went right back to normal. And so Carly's anger at that turn of events is like so resonant that you're like, wow, man, I can't believe they figured it out. I can't believe they cracked the code of how to work the pandemic into the MCU by making it the blip.
Yeah. Yes, I totally 100% agree. And I mean, like, with this type of thing, we've been waiting for this type of talk ever since the snap happened. What happened to the world? What is it like, And when we first hear about it, it's from Captain America talking to Black Widow in the Avengers location where where he's talking about how, like, and we see it in the support group and stuff like that, where we see, like, the world is, like, super dark and super fractured at this point, but, like, they're kind of getting along. Like, they're, like, kind of moving on from what happened. And then all these people show back up, and the world, it's like, you have to consider what took place in those 5 years. Probably a ton of abandoned buildings and things like that. The nature can destroy a building within only a couple of years if it's not maintained. And that's what would have happened all over the planet. And so poverty and things like that. I mean, imagine the amount of work that would have to happen in not only this country, but the rest of the world, if half the population disappeared just to keep the electricity running.
Right.
And stuff like that. Like, there was probably mass issues, and no doubt, it was hit way harder in these developing nations and things like that.
Yeah, the question of, like, what actually happened during those 5 years is so big that, like, the only way they can answer it is the way they're doing it, which is, like, obliquely and in the background and everything, I'll be curious to know whether or not this Black Widow movie takes place during those 5 years, and if that it's hard to know. I keep wondering. I'm like, are they going to really ever get into this, or is it always going to be background detail? And I don't really know what the right answer is. I don't know what
the right answer is.
I don't know what's
either.
more interesting.
I mean, honestly, now that we're doing these, like, one-off shows, you very well could deal with, even if it's just one of our characters throughout that time, somewhere in there, we could get a lot of answers pretty quickly. I feel like this show is actually giving us a lot of answers, but it is in that background, kind of offhand comment type thing.
I will say this about Falcon and the Winter Soldier: it's not my favorite Marvel property by a long shot, but I do marvel, pun intended, every week at how much more like a comic book it all is now.
Yes, that's so true.
The way that we move between scenes, the characters, the texture, the background, like, texture and detail and everything, it's like, this feels more comic booky than it ever has before. Even the kind of lack of action most of the time makes it feel more like a comic book.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't need action by any means. I just think that this show is a little... See, I think it's very hard to look at without seeing the whole picture. So, like, I think that once we have these last 2 episodes, I think that we're gonna have a different opinion on it. And it'll be very interesting to listen back to this conversation too, and just be like, oh yeah, I totally changed my opinion about that.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like Marvel has a way of doing that. Like, I think that they're almost willing to let you flounder for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
but
they almost
it feels different though. This feels different, and maybe again, I'll be happy to be wrong, but like with WandaVision, obviously there was so much ambiguity, but you're like, I can feel a steady hand on the wheel, you know? Like I feel the storytelling feels very assured. A lot of the editing and stuff in Falcon and Winter Soldier does not feel assured to me. It feels weird. There are these weird pauses, like when Lamar is restrained. He's trying to get out of his like handcuffs, and it's like really focusing on this water dripping behind him for like a long time. I was like, what's going to happen? Is the room going to flood? Like, why are we so focused on this dripping water? And the answer is no reason. Like,
yeah.
it looked cool, I guess, but it just felt so, I don't know, it just felt so unfocused and so weird. And there's all these little moments like that in these like action scenes. There's that whole scene where the men are all negotiating with that scientist while what's the girl she's the blonde spy who's Peggy Carter's niece,
Sharon Carter.
Carter. There you go. She's gonna say she's got a name that's like similarly old timey. While Sharon Carter's like doing that crazy shoot 'em up outside. That's cool. That's cool. And you could almost feel a rhythm building where it was cutting from the shootout scene to the interrogation scene, but it like never got there. The beat never picked up. And I was I just kept waiting for that kept waiting for it to kind of lock together, and it never did. And so I do feel like the jury's obviously still out on what we're gonna like think of this show in the end. But just along the way, there's been such weird little sloppy stuff that I just feel nervous.
I feel that to a certain extent. And yeah, I think that with the way that they make these things, you know, like the way that the Marvel makes movies like this, you're gonna have that happen every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like, they change their storyline so much.
I know, but they've been on such a hot streak.
Production happens. Well, no, I don't believe that this is. I don't believe they're out of the zone. You know, I think that they know what they're doing, and I think that the only thing that they maybe didn't account for was the week by week episodes where we have to sit and wait a week. They absolutely did think about that with the drop of new Cap. You know, they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, you're gonna fucking hate this guy. And then the next episode starts and they're like, just kidding, you love him. Like,
in general, I have to say, I really like weekly released TV shows. I like it so much better. I hate the binge drop model. I don't like it at all.
I like a weekly release in general. I think with these things, it's very difficult because we're so used to these big grand movies, and then you dropped us a 40-minute show.
Yeah, but I love like looking forward to WandaVision every week. I loved it when I would realize it was Thursday and I was going to be able to watch WandaVision the next day. I was like always so hyped about it. I don't quite feel that way with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but
I feel that way about this. I mean, my favorite franchise is the Captain America series, and I think that this feels like a very nice, like, kind of roundup of that, because they're all of our characters that we've been dealing with here. And I think it does it much better than Spider-Man Far From Home, where it's like, we're gonna just make you mourn Iron Man this whole time.
If this series ends with Sam suiting up as Captain America, then like, I will eat all of my objections because I'll just be so excited about that, you know?
Yeah, me too. I think, how can they not do that?
I know.
Also, have you thought about the fact that we, all through the promotional series and everything like that, is footage of Sam and the Falcon with the shield.
Yeah.
And we have not seen that at all.
Yeah, I know. Well,
that's one of the
maybe a little bit in that train fight. I can't remember, but yeah.
No, but I'm saying they're out in like a field practicing with it. So, why show us that ahead of time? What the hell?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like now we know that at least happens, even if that is one of those things that they shot just for the, you know, the promotion, which I doubt it is. I'm sure it's in there. They're definitely going to end up with that shield. And as we've said before, okay, so like we've leaned pretty heavy on the scientist that's, you know, the guy that gives Captain America the super soldier serum at the beginning of the series.
Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci's character. You know, he says it amplifies who you are, so a good man becomes great. I loved that. I don't know if you picked up on it, but before all of this, the whole time that we've known John Walker, he's kind of got these like tics. He kind of like moves funny and like twitches his arms and stuff.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of it when he's sitting waiting for Sam to meet with Carly, and he's like anxious as hell, and he's like, this is bullshit, we got to get in there.
Yeah.
You know, you sit there and watch him just kind of like twitch. And then after, when he kills that guy, he's standing there with the shield, and he's like kind of twitching. And I really liked that it was like just this very subtle character thing with him that like once he's got the super soldier serum in him, it kind of makes him do it more. And like it amplifies the idea that like John Walker is a guy who's got a good idea of like what's good and what's right, but he's not all there, you know. And he
just has this hair trigger temper that it shows, you know, that he's very easily slighted.
I also, one of the things that I love about him too is that they definitely made it so that that helmet doesn't really fit him exactly right. Like it looks a little big on him or something. Yeah. It's like they purposefully made it for him. And then someone was like, okay, so now let's tweak it so it just doesn't look exactly right on him.
I can't. By the way, have you ever seen Wyatt Russell in anything else? Like, did you see him in Black Mirror or anything like that?
If he's in Black Mirror, then I've seen him in it.
He's in that episode Playtest, where it's like a house that's like sort of a video game or something. It's I don't know, it's a good one. I remember being good, but man, does he look different. Like, you want to talk about like a physical transformation? Wyatt Russell used to look like surfer version of Kurt Russell. And now he like his head looks different even.
Yeah.
Like he has like such a pronounced jawline and you know, and everything just by getting Marvel ripped and cutting his hair, he looks like a different person. If you look you see Wyatt Russell before, you know, I mean, he was a good looking guy in both versions, but it just he looks like a different guy.
You're right. He does.
It's so strange to look at.
Yeah, he's like perfectly cast. I think that he's so perfect for this role. Like he looks so much like the guy that you would get to be the new Captain America. You know,
Yeah. I think it's a little bit funny. Like the image of him standing there with the shield covered in blood was a strong image. But like Captain America has definitely killed like a lot of people.
Dude, the first scene of Winter Soldier, he hops on that boat and he kicks a guy so hard that like every internal organ would have exploded. You know, like
he throws a motorcycle at a guy in Age of Ultron.
Yeah. Honestly, and by the way, then that explodes.
Yeah.
You know, he definitely killed. Well, and also the funny thing about it is like that guy that he killed was a terrorist. Mm-hmm. You know, like.
But I think it's about the anger and the grotesqueness of doing it in front of all those people. It's funny though. It's so dark that as Carly Morgenthau is watching it happen, this girl next to her is like filming it on her phone and like excitedly talking. Like, it's so dark. You can't hear what she's
That's
saying,
funny.
but she's like so excited about the fact that Captain America just like destroyed a guy's skull in front of her.
I really loved that they added that conversation between him and Carly about how he like looked up to Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then Captain America murders you. That's
Yeah.
pretty great stuff right there.
Yep. I mean, I like everything else. I like all this stuff with reservations. I like it even though I feel like it doesn't totally hang together. It's not totally up to the standards of like Marvel storytelling to me. Which we're gonna have to talk about Justice League when we do our next episode, because we're not gonna have time to do it today. But that's one thing that is like was shocking to me about Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is that character motivations manage to track from scene to scene, which has literally never happened before in the DC universe. Like, there's never a movie where characters' decisions make sense from scene to scene, and they actually do in Justice League, and it's like amazing.
But
the only the only thing I wanted to say about that was you were mentioning Captain America kicking a guy so hard. I love that Justice League is a little gory. There's a scene when Wonder Woman throws a guy and his head like shatters against the wall behind her and leaves like this grotesque blood stain on the wall. And I was like, I'm kind of glad they did that.
I really want to do a deep dive on Justice League with you. But let me just ask you this. Is it your favorite DC movie?
No.
I'm not counting anything pre Dark Knight trilogy. I'm not counting Dark Knight.
Right. No,
I'm counting
I thought you meant
DCEU.
DCU, like starting from Man of Steel.
Yes, DCEU.
It's not. No, Wonder Woman is my favorite. The first Wonder Woman.
Ugh, wrong.
But I would say Zack Snyder Justice League, second favorite.
I because of like DC Comics, because of what DC Comics are like, Justice League is now my favorite. I think that Wonder Woman's a great movie, but I have big major qualms with it, and I don't really have big major qualms with Justice League because it's like, how can you argue against this? It's like, we literally begged this guy to make his grand version of this thing.
Okay, well, I didn't, but yeah.
Well, no, I didn't either.
Yeah, but people did.
But people did.
The fact that it exists is amazing. But we will have to reconvene to talk about it, because I do have one major qualm with Justice League.
Ooh, don't even say it.
I won't tell you, but I definitely have some thoughts. So
well, I mean, it's definitely not perfect. You know, there's some weird stuff in it. But
yes, and we will talk about the weirdest stuff.
Let's talk about it next week. Let's do this next week.
We'll do it next week. We'll do an episode called "Are You Snydering My Cut?" And we will. That sounds super gross.
Yeah, yes. I don't like it.
Maybe we'll come up with a better one before then. Okay. But this has been Are You Falcon, My Winter Soldier? And I'm hoping to get this episode out before Friday so people can listen to it before the next episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for talking to me today, Morgan. I'll let you get back.
Thank
to
you.
school.
I love you.
Now. I love you too.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.